Hello and welcome to the LinkedIn Collective Studio here at B2Believe in New York City. My name is Pierce Delisle and I lead the Content Solutions practice in North America for LinkedIn. Super excited to be hosting today's discussion, which is going to be focused on looking at the macroeconomic environment and specifically its influence on B2B spend and the global job market. I'm joined today by Corey Katanga, a senior economist also at LinkedIn. Corey brings a wealth of experience in assessing economic data, trends, and then distilling that down into actionable strategies, some of which he's going to be sharing with us here in a few moments. So with that, Corey, welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Great. I know we have a lot to get into. I'll have a lot of questions, so let's just dive in. I think the first question, in order to set a baseline foundation for the audience, is getting a better understanding of the LinkedIn economic graph and how you personally use that data to extract those insights and that expertise.
So the LinkedIn economic graph starts with LinkedIn's vision, which is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. And you can think about the graph as the foundation of that vision. It's LinkedIn's data. It's the 1 billion members that we have, our nearly 70 million companies, and the 65 million people who come on LinkedIn to look for jobs every week. So it's a digital mapping of the global economy, and we use that at LinkedIn to help connect the dots between things like hiring, business strategy, and understanding what's going on in the global labor market.
Right. So let's help our audience connect some dots. So obviously you've been looking at a lot of key trends and data across the US and the EU. I think what would be interesting for our audience is if you could shine some light on what you see in terms of business sentiment, and then in particular how that might be influencing B2B spend and the global job market.
Sure. So since we're in New York, let's start with the US. So what we've seen in the US so far is that B2B spend, or what we call generally business spend or fixed capital investment, that's continued to grow. It has definitely slowed down over the last few years by less than half, but it's still growing, and it's growing at a slow and steady pace. And what we also see along with that is that business confidence has stabilized in the US as well. We had a strong recovery from the pandemic, then things slowed because we had a bit of an inflation crisis and a bit of an interest rate hike. Only a bit. And so as a result, we've definitely seen a bit of a slowdown that had a big hit on business confidence. And so business confidence came down, it started to stabilize. We also saw the same thing in hiring, right? Hiring is one of those key operational expenditures for businesses. So when they're deciding how much to spend, they're thinking about labor and they're thinking about capital, right? How much to spend on IT, IP, any kind of business spending or subscription that is going to help them provide services to their customers. All of those things have been pulled back over the last year or so. What we're seeing also in the EU is a stabilization in business sentiment. The EU situation is much worse than what we're seeing in the US. The EU kind of stagnated towards the later end of the last year. And so business confidence, it took a while to actually start to stabilize in the EU, but we have seen that happen recently. And as a result, business spending is starting to stabilize there as well, although we are seeing contraction in big markets like France, Germany. We're still pulling back on spending, still pulling back on hiring.
Interesting. Yes, you mentioned like the kind of rockiness between 21 and 23, the business sentiment stabilization that we're seeing in 2023. So given that stabilization, also you mentioned it extends to hiring as well, as indicated by the LinkedIn economic graph data. Do you see the stabilization in the labor market as an early sign of any developments in the B2B market or business market, as you said?
So overall, what we're seeing in the data is that in the US, not so much in the EU, France, Germany, but in the US, we are seeing that the pace of hiring is stabilized. So hiring was happening very fast in the recovery. It slowed down very sharply once the Fed started hiking interest rates, and now it's starting to level out. It's leveling out at a slower pace than what we saw prior to the slowdown, but it is starting to level out. And with that leveling out, we are expecting companies to start thinking about, well, what am I going to do with my operational expenditures? So I need to decide how much I'm going to allocate to labor, how much am I going to allocate to capital. And so if you're thinking about services that you want to purchase from another business, looking at labor actually helps you understand how those companies are doing with their operational expenditures. So if they're willing to spend more on hiring, then that tells you, okay, they're probably going to be willing to spend more on some services that you're going to provide. What we see particularly in the B2B marketing space, we're not seeing that much of a pickup right now. So marketing is actually lagging behind hiring of the overall labor market. So there's no signs of re-acceleration at the moment, but we're keeping a watch out for that.
Great. Kind of stole my thunder with my next question a little bit, but I think there still is a window to open it. But so far we've been talking a lot about retroactively looking back, right? But everyone loves a prediction nowadays, right? So what is your biggest, boldest prediction for the B2B space?
So I'm gonna use a prediction that's not only bold but also might be a little reckless because I
All
am
right,
not a
bring it on.
marketing expert. So we're hearing a lot about generative AI and AI, the possibilities, the opportunities. And one of the areas where people are talking about AI a lot is the labor market. So there's a lot of discussion about, are office jobs going to go away? Are we going to lose entry-level white-collar positions? And so there's a lot of discussion around the labor market. But it's going to take some time before we start to see any real impact, I think, from generative AI on a grand scale. But one area where I think we might see very strong impact is B2B marketing and sales. And so I'm kind of cheating here because I do know that for CMOs, AI is the skill that they've added the most over the last year. So CMOs are trying to position themselves around AI, not to build AI. They're not building AI tools, but they want to know how to use it and they want to know how to deploy it effectively. And B2B is such a wide open and green space. You can imagine AI being able to come in and have a pretty large impact on what folks are doing, making marketing potentially more competitive. If generative AI, for example, is able to produce marketing strategies in a data-driven way, very effectively, very quickly, that's going to sort of supercharge competition in a B2B marketing space. And it may open up new opportunities because marketing is expensive. B2B marketing can also be expensive. But if generative AI is sort of a tool that's helping make that cheaper, then for places that were didn't have competition in terms of who they were selling to, they may start to have competition they didn't have before.
Great, great. Wow, so you dropped a lot of knowledge in a short amount of time here. So I'm just curious, if you could speak more like, what does your day-to-day look like and how can we follow some of your ongoing work on a more consistent basis so we can keep learning, kind of get ahead of these ebbs and flows of the market?
Well, for me, no 2 days are the same. Tomorrow, the jobs report will come out. That day will look very different
We
than
were talking
today
about that before, yeah.
at B2Believe. But generally, you can follow me on LinkedIn. You can follow my team on LinkedIn. So you search LinkedIn Economic Graph, subscribe to our page, and you can get all of our insights delivered right to your LinkedIn box.
Great, great. Well, Corey, thank you for sharing these valuable insights and expertise with us today. And thank you all for tuning into this LinkedIn Collective Studio session.